So after 3 weeks, it is apparent to me, and I don't care what any Cowboy fan says, they don't want to see the Philadelphia Eagles. They don't want anything to do with us. Dallas still stinks. Yo, by the way, Cake Dingbat here, and hope everybody's having a great day. Hope you guys are doing. Hope you're hanging in there. There is no doubt that in the NFL, if you want to win games, you want to win Super Bowl, you better have a good offensive and defensive line. It is all about the line of scrimmage. And right now, when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles after 3 weeks, they have the best offensive line in football and one of the best defensive lines in football. And they're only going to get better as the season goes on. Now, before we get into it, if you're new to the channel and you like the content, make sure you hit that like button. More importantly, make sure you subscribe to the most censored, the most throttled, pause, Eagles content creator in all of the internet. If you've been subscribed for a while, I just want to thank you so much for all the support you give to me. And just double check, double moonwalk check. Make sure you're still subscribed. Your notification thing is on. I'm getting people telling me that's not the case once again. So if you could check that out, that would be absolutely fantastic. Now, we are only 3 weeks into the NFL. It is very, very early. And a lot of times we see that teams that start 3-0, 2-1, and teams that you think are going to be really, really good turn out to not be that good. The Eagles are in September. We've got to keep that in mind. However, when you look at where we're at and after the first 3 weeks, a couple things have become very apparent to me, okay? Number one, I believe that the Eagles have a more talented roster than they did a year ago. Even after losing Javon Hargrave and C.J. Gardner-Johnson and you lost your linebackers, Kaiser White, who had a great interception on one Dak pick, Scott. But even through and despite those losses, I truly believe that this is a more talented team than a year ago. If you look at the offense pretty much brought everybody back, and I think Cam Jurgens is starting to play really good football. And with the addition of DeAndre Swift, I think he gives you an added element of a guy who is, able to catch out of the backfield, but I think he's also more explosive than Miles Sanders. So maybe Miles Sanders, first couple years, had that explosion, but it did seem to fade a little bit last year. Now with DeAndre Swift has pop, man. He's like the Flash. When you look at the defense and that defensive line, I talked about it yesterday. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis are the best defensive tackle duo in the National Football League right now. And they're just in second and rookie years. So what the heck is that flying around? So I think this defense, I think the sky's the limit for this team. What the Eagles may not have done so far this year that they did last year is, I think, offensively, they were more explosive than they were early on in the year. And I don't think it's a talent thing. I think it's an adjusting to a new offensive coordinator, not running as many RPOs. And, I think that takes time. The Eagles were definitely better week 3 than they were week 2. And I think if they get those red zone things in order, they'll be fine. I actually think that this team, no doubt about it, talent-wise, I think they're better. And when you look at the division, and I kind of look at this season, the first 3 weeks, and where we're at with this division, because when you look at the division, the Giants are just sad piles of crap. I mean, that's what they are. They stink. The Giants stink tremendously, and it's not even funny. The most wasted money I've ever seen spent was on Daniel Jones. And then to spend money on him and then not even get him outside help, that's just totally brutal. I think the Giants are in big trouble. They probably lose to Seattle this week. Their schedule's not going to get easier. I think they're the worst team in the division as of right now. It sure looks like that way. Then you look at the Dallas Cowboys in Washington. Dallas has the benefit of a veteran quarterback, right? They've got Dak Prescott. Although Dak Prescott, people want to complain about Jalen Hurts. Dak Prescott has looked very unimpressive to me. He has looked horrible. They have had weekly problems in the red zone. He had a big pick to end that game versus Arizona when he needed to win it. And then he should have had a pick six versus the Jets that would change the whole trajectory possibly of that game as well. So I think if you want to talk about struggling, I don't think he's looked that great. I'm just being honest, and it makes you wonder why they got Trey Lance. If he has a couple more weeks of it, not great play, it's going to be interesting to see if the fans are going to start calling more and more for Trey Lance. And when I look at Dallas and I say to myself, if I'm a Cowboy fan, and this is just being honest, if I was a Cowboy fan, I wouldn't want any part of the Eagles. I wouldn't want any part of them. Because obviously the way you beat Dallas is you can run all over their defense. Their run defense stinks, which was what I was complaining about in that Jets game. Like, why are you not running the ball more? I don't understand why they stopped running. But Arizona ran all over them. And if the Arizona Cardinals can run all over you like they did, what do you think the Eagles are going to do to you? The Eagles are going to destroy you. The Arizona Cardinals, Jonathan Gannon, took the blueprint on how to play Dallas from the Eagles. And if you look at what the Eagles did in both games, they put points on the board against Dallas. Both times. One of the times they had a backup quarterback and still almost won. So the Eagles and the Dallas matchup is really not very good for the Dallas Cowboys, in my opinion. I think the Dallas Cowboys, their fans are going to want to talk about the 8-3 record versus the Eagles, Dak Prescott, and his division record. That's all meaningless. It all has nothing to do with the current state of the Eagles. It really hasn't had anything to do with the Eagles for the last 2 years. They only beat the Eagles because Jalen Hurts didn't play. Okay? It's not the same team that it was when Jalen Hurts was a rookie and then it was thrown into the fire. It's not the same team. Dallas really has squandered an 8-3 record versus the Eagles. Dak Prescott has really squandered his what? I don't even know what his record is. It's like 27-2 or 3 or something versus the division. Can you imagine putting and compiling the record that Dak Prescott has put in a division and never being able to repeat as division champs not one time? That's pathetic. Pathetic. All right? So to me, I think that the Dallas Cowboys, as of right now and what we've seen the first 3 weeks, they don't want anything to do with the Eagles. I think that's a dangerous game for the Cowboys because I do not think the Cowboys can stop the Eagles' run game. They're going to have a problem. And it's going to be interesting to see if New England copies Arizona. Is everybody going to start doing what the Eagles did? The Eagles put the blueprint out how to handle future Eagle Micah Parsons. They put it out there. So we'll see how it goes and what happens. When you look at the Eagles and, let's say, Washington, I actually think Washington is a tougher matchup than the Cowboys for the Eagles, just from a matchup standpoint. I think the Washington, I can't even say their name, the Commanders, they have a very, very good defensive line. Now, they got to go up against the best offensive line in football, but this and San Francisco, probably the best two defensive lines the Eagles are going to play all year. So, this game, Washington always tends to be tough. It always tends to basically be a dogfight. And Washington, I think, plays the Eagles. It seems like, maybe this isn't the case anymore, but it just seems like they always seem to play us better in Philly than in Washington. So I think this is a tough game in terms of the Eagles' offense and running the ball. I think it's a little harder to do versus Washington than Dallas. Where the Eagles have the giant advantage over Washington is I believe Washington's offensive line is very susceptible, and I also believe the fact that they have a young quarterback who may hold the ball a little longer than these other quarterbacks have been holding it may give the Eagles the opportunity to have a field day with sacks. But I expect this to be a tight game versus Washington, and I do think Washington is I think they match up better with us than Dallas does. I'm just being honest. I don't think Dallas can handle the Eagles' run game. I don't think they can handle the Eagles' offensive line. I'm not just making that up. Look at the fact that Micah Parsons, what has he played? 3 games versus the Eagles, 3 or 4 games versus the Eagles? He's got a half a sack. He's absolutely done nothing versus the Eagles. The Eagles know how to handle Dallas's defense. The only reason Dallas, like I said, won last year was because Gardner Minshew was playing. That was it. So this year, I think Dallas is probably scared of the Eagles. And listen, the Eagles may be struggling. They may be having, not kicking on all cylinders yet. But this team, offensive line and defensive line, are the thing that they have to have. You have to have a good offensive line. You have to have a good defensive line. The Eagles control both lines of scrimmage pretty much against every team. And with that, the Eagles are going to be good. They're going to build up a good record. And once this offense gets kicking on all cylinders, I expect it to get really, really good. I expect the Eagles to be putting points up. Hopefully by that Miami Monday night or Sunday night game, hopefully that offense will be gelling and we'll have an old-fashioned shootout, because I think it's going to be one of those 41-38 type games. I really do, especially with the way Miami can score. But when you look at the first 3 weeks and you look at where the Eagles are at, the Eagles are ahead, number 1 in the division, 3-0. Only 3 undefeated teams. One of them is the Eagles, and you have a division where I think the Giants are really worse than they were. I think Washington has a good team, but their rookie quarterback is still going to be a question. And I think the Dallas Cowboys are way overrated, but not just overrated. They're not a good matchup. You know how they say, fighters makes fights. How fighters match up against each other makes fights. Well, the Eagles match up really well against the Cowboys. I mean, if you look at it, really, what are the Cowboys' strengths? They want to say it's their defensive line, but you can't stop the run. The Eagles are the best running team in the league, best offensive line in the league. How are you going to stop it? The Eagles have a better quarterback, a better offensive line, better wide receivers, better tight end. The Eagles have a better defensive line. The Eagles, you want to give them some of the off-the-ball linebackers? Fine, we'll give you the linebackers of Dallas. Maybe even the safeties. The Eagles have better corners than Dallas. Dallas just lost their best corner for the year. So the Eagles match up really well against Dallas. I'm expecting the sweep. I'm expecting Mark Holmes to suck a lot of DNA out of chickens after he sacrifices them for his satanic ways, because it is a satanic star on the helmet. But yeah, Dallas, let's face it, I don't think those fans want a piece of the Eagles, because the Eagles match up against them perfectly. And why did Arizona beat the Dallas Cowboys last week? A couple reasons. One of them was Dak didn't come up big when they needed him again. The other is because the Eagles put the blueprint out last year on how to beat Dallas, and that's what a lot of teams are going to do. Dallas has got a tough situation. New England, they're going to come out and run the ball. They play better defense than Arizona. So we'll see how they handle that. Then they got to play San Francisco. Dallas may be getting ready for a 3-game losing streak right here. We're going to find out. Going to be interesting. With that said, take care. I'll talk to you later. Of course, don't be a dingbat. Remember, it's how we vision, baby. We're all just living in it. One of the things that I forgot yesterday to really talk about is Olamide Zacchaeus. I think that's how you say his name. We'll just call him Oz. But my eye's itching all of a sudden. But I've got to say this. To me, Oz has taken over the number 3 spot at wide receiver. I think Quez, being injured, has lost the job. And Oz went out there, he performed, he actually cashed in with a touchdown pass, and I thought he was really good. To me, Quez Watkins is now your number 4 wide receiver. Could the Eagles look to maybe trade him? Are they going to keep him as a 4th wide receiver? Because I tell you what, how he's going to dial up something. He's going to dial up some sort of trade. We all know it's going to happen. With that said, Denzel Washington out.